Welcome back, everyone, to another installation of 10 for Zen. The idea of which is that you will lend me your ears for 10 minutes or thereabouts and listen to my musings, reflections, or whatever on Zen teachings, Zen practice, or Zen stories, or just something that is somehow related to Zen, such as poetry. So, it was a few months ago, I was discussing the title for this playlist with Anand, and I had suggested to her that I was going to have a playlist called 10 for Zen, the idea being 10 minutes for Zen. She suggested an alternative called a cup of Zen, or a cup of Zen, borrowing the phrase, I believe, from Osho. Well, I mulled it over, and eventually I stayed with the original 10 for Zen because it seemed to have a nice ring to it. And also it was more or less clearly defined that it would be 10 minutes or so. A cup of Zen, well, that was a little bit more open. And perhaps I should have stayed with it because in the meantime I found out that there is quite a lot of things on YouTube called 10 for Zen. So I'll stay with the 10 for Zen for now and maybe at some point change it over to a cup of Zen. But the idea of a cup of Zen is really good. At this stage I invite you to press the pause button, make a cup of tea or coffee, come back with it and a biscuit, and listen to the rest of what I have to say while you enjoy that cup of tea or coffee. So today is a story, and the story is 32 years ago. I walked into a bookstore in Dublin, O'Connell Street. And in that bookstore I noticed a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Something attracted me to it, and maybe it's just that in the past, 10 years before this, I had read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert M. Pirsig, and I had enjoyed that book. So when I saw this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, I was perhaps immediately favorably disposed towards it. I picked it up, and I liked that it was a thin volume. I turned it over, and there was this wonderful photograph of Suzuki Roshi on the back, and there was something about his posture and the way he was looking at the camera that made me think, gosh, looks like a good guy. I flicked through the book and I noticed that the chapters were all short, 2 or 3 pages long, with medium-sized print. And perhaps it was also the phrase beginner's mind that made me think this would be a good read. I read a few bits in the shop and I liked what I read. So I bought the book and I brought it home. And I remember in the days that followed sitting in a big armchair reading this book and having what I can only describe as a jaw-dropping experience. And the jaw-dropping experience was simply the realization that there is another way to see life, or there is another way to go about life. And I wanted more of it. So shortly after this, I came across a meditation course run by the Friends of the Western Buddhist Order, and I signed up for it. And one thing led to another, and a few years later I moved over to Wales and lived in a community of Friends of the Western Buddhist Order. And while I lived there, my interest in Zen grew again. I was reading books by Philip Kaplau and Master Sheng Yang and D.T. Suzuki. Not the same Suzuki as wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. D.T. Suzuki wrote essays on Zen Buddhism and a manual of Zen Buddhism and so forth. And I found all these books deeply inspiring to the point where I realized I had to do something about it. And I made inquiries. I visited Thrussell, a Zen monastery in Northumberland, England. And I also signed up for a practice period at Green Gulch Farm, California. So, having visited Thrussell, I was very impressed with their practice and their commitment. There were a few things that I didn't quite gel with or take to, and one of them was they called themselves Reverend, and another was that they played an electric organ when chanting. But I really did appreciate their commitment and sincerity. And I decided to continue on my journey to California and see what that situation was like. And when I got to Green Gulch Farm, it took me a little while to realize that it was actually connected with the author of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Shunryu Suzuki Roshi. So that was an interesting connection and an interesting completion of the circle. I really, really liked the way they practiced there. And I ended up staying. So I bought this book in Eason's, O'Connell Street, Dublin, on the 28th of February, 1991. I know this because I wrote the date in the book, and I still have the book. So that is 32 years ago, and at the time of recording, 1 week. So that's my story, part of my story, how I got into Zen practice. What is yours? I will be leading a retreat in April in Gaia House, and the name of the retreat is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. So if you would like to explore Zen practice with me, or just explore this wonderful gem of a book with me, perhaps you can join us. I'll leave a link below, and if your calendar is free, you can join in. You can come and practice and explore Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And if your calendar is not free, if you're not able to do it, then perhaps you would like to just sign up and be on my mailing list. I'll leave a link for that too. Okay. Until the next time, bye for now.